How's it going, everybody? This is Alex Caceres, and you're listening to Story of the Fight.
For the intro, Alex Caceres, our boy. That's our guy.
Boy,
right there,
on a tear lately too.
He has been on a tear ever since he came on SOF. Actually, Story of the Fight. I don't know if there's a direct correlation. Welcome everybody to Story of the Fight. My name's Ramiro. That's my boy Will, and this is where we talk all things mixed martial arts. We do a lot of recaps. We also do some, fight companions, fighter interviews, a little bit of everything. Today, we're doing some recaps. So today we're doing some recaps. If you want to find us, where do they find us, Will?
Yeah, everywhere. It's at Story the Fight on everything. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Reddit, Twitch, everywhere. Story the Fight. If you go to storythefight.com, it'll have all the links. Yeah, everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Spotify.
Hey, shout out Regen for joining us. He's saying Bruce Leroy, mind blown. He's got that glow. Ever since Story of the Fight, he's got that glow. He's got an aura around him now. Aura. But hey, we can go right into it, Will. We had a fight night last night. It was Sean Strickland versus Magomedov. And, going in, I think we talked about it last week when we were reviewing the card.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, this is actually a decent card.
There's some fun fights on it.
Yeah, not sure about the main event. We talked about Sean Strickland always being a main event for fight nights. He's like the fight night main event king.
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah, pretty
I
much.
wonder if we could just find out, Rich in the background, if you could find out how many fight nights Sean Strickland has been the main event of. But I feel like it's been at least like 4 or 5, though. No, in the last year.
Yeah, 4 or 5, and yet he still hasn't beaten anybody notable. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Shout out Toasty though. Toasty's here.
Hey, shout out Toasty. Love that guy.
A big fight coming up. Also, shout out real quick. Shout out Jesse Strader. Got a finish last night in the co-main event.
Hey,
shout out Jesse Strader.
Another one of our guys right there. But hey, by the way, I feel like almost every other week we're talking about a fight that Toasty has coming up. That guy is more active than anybody in the world, dude.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He just wants to fight. I love it. But we had Sean Strickland versus Magomedov. Sean Strickland has that classic style where he kind of just shuffles forward. Yeah, with that guard. He's willing to pepper you up. You know what I mean? A little pepper. And Magomedov started off a little fast that first round. I was like, okay.
Some would say a little too fast.
Yeah. But, he
should have told him to slow down.
Brought the heat to Strickland. And at first I was like, okay, if he can maintain that pace, we got some trouble. And the second round started, I was like, oh, no, he can't. He can't maintain that pace,
And
but
Toasty says iCarly stands for the win. Rich, if you can find a picture of iCarly in her MMA bout and we can pull that up, that would be fantastic.
Oh my god!
I wish that was joking, but that's a thing. But I thought this right here from Magomedov, I thought that was perfect, right? The front kick to the body, because when there's someone who's just going to walk you down like that, and that with the iCarly stance, just completely squared off to you, not bladed, right? Just walking you down like this. Dude, just front kick to the body over and over and over again, because he's just going to keep walking into it. He's doing half the force, he's bringing half the force. And I thought that was a perfect game plan. We talk about how Strickland, he keeps main eventing even though he hasn't really beaten anybody notable. And it's like, man, how is he getting so many main events? How did Magomedov get this main event? Look at that. Classic.
Oh my god, that is beautiful. That's
so
such a good comparison.
Shout out Sean Strickland. But man, I think if he just stayed a little bit more patient, and maybe if he wasn't having his second UFC fight as a headline, he would have stayed more patient, maybe, because that game plan was perfect. Other than that, he was just throwing these big overhand shots, and that's the opposite of what you want to do to someone like Sean Strickland. Because those big overhand shots, he's able to lean away, he's able to frame off, catch him like way out here, and you don't really end up close to him with those punches. and throwing big overhands and missing, that'll zap
That's a lot of
cardio.
energy. That's a lot of energy, man. For sure.
So it's like,
you know who doesn't
his game
expend
plan
a lot
was,
of energy?
What's that? Pitter patter.
Dude, just because it's the same thing, you know. And if you were to go 5 rounds, and I think this is why so many of Sean Strickland fights go to decision, is because he doesn't mind being in the iCarly stance for 5 rounds, peppering a few shots here and there, being patient and picking his shots.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's not putting too much behind him. They're just straight shots right down the pipe if he can, right? In this case, like the picture that Rich put up, it's Magomedov. I believe this is when he was up against the fence a little bit, and he's trying to fire some shots back as Strickland was peppering him up, and Strickland just takes a little step back and just bink, little, you know, right hook right to the chin.
You say that as so like efficient. You say that as like it's a exact moment of the fight when it was the entire second round of the fight.
It was. Actually, it was entire.
Because, man, the first round, I would imagine, I would be surprised if because Magomedov took that first round, right? There's no way he did it.
Yeah.
Let me see really quick. Rich says 5-ish main events for Strickland, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's a lot. That's a
lot. But I'm pulling up the scorecard right here. All 3 judges gave Abus the first round, which he should have. But man, it's like his game plan was to zap the energy of Strickland with those front kicks, but then his game plan was also to zap his own energy, just throwing massive haymakers. And it's like, dude, it's like, did you see Alex Pereira knock him out and think, cool, I just got to swing hard at him and knock him out? Because it's not that simple. It's not like Pereira just threw some haymaker and knocked him out. It was calculated, you know? It was like an actual answer for the way Sean Strickland strikes. Like going into it, everybody was saying this is like the worst matchup for Strickland because the way he throws his jab, the left hook is gonna land. Like it's literally his most frequent entry is the exact entry that Alex Pereira wants to counter with his left hook. Yeah, and it's like that's a very specific thing. You can't just swing wild at him, because he will lean back, he will frame off with his shoulders, and you're just gonna like blow your wad, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, he was exhausted like 10 seconds into the second round.
And again, for somebody that doesn't expend too much energy, as soon as Sean Strickland smells blood like that, man, he'll just push up against you. You know, he will put you up against the fence and just continues throwing those small peppering shots until one of them lands, man.
Yeah, there was a flurry that he landed where he really started opening up, where he's throwing the 1-2. Like, it was literally like one of those things where it's like, all right, build off the 1. What comes after the 1, the 2? Cool. It's just like textbook stuff, right? Like not any like crafty combinations. He was literally just, it was like jab, cross, hook, uppercut, jab, cross, hook, uppercut, like over and over and over again. It was literally just like the most fundamental, basic combinations. But Magomedov was just so exhausted, and he just kept landing that this is like what you would expect at the end of the fight, or like the end of the rounds, you know, like the 5th round, 4th and 5th round. That's what you kind of would expect. It's like after the pitter patter shots for 3 rounds, you're exhausted, right? Instead, it was just the beginning of the 2nd round. Strickland already had him gassed, but it wasn't even Strickland that had him gassed. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't that avalanche of accumulation. Because Strickland didn't really land much in that 1st round. It was just and someone who's had their second pro fight or second UFC fight as a main event. Probably not the best idea.
The thing that we think about when we think about somebody getting gassed is their shots getting a lot slower, right? Like their punches are a lot slower. You can actually read them a lot easier. But the other thing is, you know, when you bob and weave and you're labored at that point, it's a lot easier to kind of read that too and know exactly where you're going to be. And that's where Sean Strickland starts getting really good, is where he starts punching you where you're going to be versus where you're at right now, because he sees you bobbing and weaving really slowly and really labored. So it's so much easier for him to be accurate.
Yeah, and like that, if you're going to be doing that against Sean Strickland, that's like I was talking about how Pereira wants to fight someone like Sean Strickland who enters like that. But Sean Strickland wants to find someone who's going to back up and try to slip his shots. That's exactly who he wants to fight, because while you're slipping, you're not throwing anything back, and he can just stand right in front of you and just keep throwing. And that's all he does. That's all he trains, you know? He's constantly in that zone. So like you're literally fighting him where he's most comfortable, which is terrible.
It's working from, man. He climbs to 27-5. he calls out afterwards. He's like, "Give me a title shot." It's like, bro, you just beat this dude that had his second fight in the UFC, and then the announcers were like, "That was his best performance so far."
It's like,
and yeah, okay, but I don't think
he's ranked 7 going into this fight. Yeah, he's ranked 7 going into this fight. He fought a guy who's not ranked. Fought a guy who is his second UFC fight. No, I don't think he gets a title shot. I think he maybe gets the loser between Whitaker and Duplessis. I feel like that's maybe a good move, And by that I mean he'll fight Duplessis next, because there's no way Duplessis beats Robert Whitaker. I think that's
come on, man, with a name like that,
dude. Come on,
you never know.
I do.
All right. Anything else on the main event? There wasn't really much to it.
No, I mean it was basically Sean Strickland beating a guy. He got a finish. That's cool. Andrew Toasty says getting 100% on a second grade math test isn't impressive. It's a litmus test at best. Yeah, it's like great. Sean Strickland beat a guy who shouldn't have been.
Look,
in the main event.
We talked about this last week, right? Going into this, you see this and you're like, okay, Sean Strickland should win this one and should win this one easily. So he did his job. He did what he was supposed to do. He did what people were expecting him to do. No, not his fault at all. Props to him for getting that job done, but don't come out afterwards and be like, well, after this, I need a title shot. Like, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
I mean, shoot your shot, I guess. But
I guess, man, shoot for the stars. So that if you don't land there, you land on Duplessis. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
All right. Let's go to the co-main event, which was Grant Dawson versus Damir Ismagulov.
Man, that kid is good. Did you watch that? The where they're like hyping up the fight, and it's like the interviews of them. Grant Dawson's like, man, I want people to be like, man, that kid is good. Man, that kid is good. Because all these people have these opinions, all these journalists and stuff, and I want to see, like, after this fight, I want all of them to be like, man, this kid is good. He said it like 4 times, like back to back.
So you're like, let me start it off with, man.
Yeah,
this kid is good. Hey, dude, I'll give him props. Very good timing
he's
on
super
his
talented.
Takedowns. Very good timing on his takedowns. But the thing that I loved about Dawson is just position over submission. And that's what he focused on the entire time, right? His chain grappling was really good. Whatever it is that Ismagulov was giving him, he would take, and he would find a different way to attack. So, if they're on the ground, he's taking his back. He's constantly trying to go for the choke. Ismagulov turns towards the triangle, the body triangle, almost slips out. And Dawson just rolls with him and starts a little ground and pound. But whatever it is that Ismagulov was rolling into, Dawson had an answer for. And this is a perfect example, Rich, with the picture at the right time here. Right? He's just transitioning over and over and over to these different positions. But he's more worried about, let me make sure I maintain a good position. And once I maintain that position, I'll figure out what the best way to attack is. But he wasn't forcing anything. And I think that's what the beauty was with Dawson's fight.
Old school Ben Askren. When Ben Askren was actually had working hips, It's
a long time ago.
But it's a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, it was a fun fight to watch. That was like super technical, and I love the battle of the lock side on the body triangle every round.
Back and forth,
hilarious to watch. It's like
back and forth.
Ismagulov's like, put the lock on the ground. Cool. Now I can start turning in, and as soon as he starts that, Grant Dawson's like, let me switch the lock, and then he's like, oh, lock's on this side now. Let me turn this way, and then cool. Now I can start fighting the hands to turn into him, and then Grant Dawson switches the lock. He's like, oh, lock's on the other side. Let me turn this, and it was just over and over and over again. Not a fight I'll ever rewatch for sure. But while it was happening, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Like you said,
I thought this was smart too. Very smart from Grant Dawson when he had the slam and instead just gently put him down. Terrible for the excitement factor, but you got to get your win money. So I get it.
Very smart fight again.
Yeah. Right. Is it going to blow the doors off of it and everyone's going to be like, man, this guy's the next exciting prospect coming up through the rank? No, not at all. But he's very good. And does that even matter? Not really,
He's going to continue moving up the ranks.
Call out at the end was very weird. I don't know if he's just kind of awkward on the mic and just doesn't feel super comfortable there. But when he's like, Islam Makhachev, you're the GOAT, but I'm your replacement. I was like, what?
Yeah. And also
Islam's the
props
GOAT.
to Laura Sanko, because while he was switching back and forth on the body triangle, man, she rode that thing for minutes, and she was like, and you got to switch over because you're gonna want to. And there's the switch again. You just switch on the body triangle. He's very smart. Oh, he just switched again. I'm like, all right, how many times are we gonna call this out?
I mean, when it's the only thing happening in the fight, what else are you gonna say?
That is true.
But man, I thought the commentary for the night was so bad. I thought it was worse it's been in a while. And I like Laura Senko on there. I don't think we said this last time, her and Bisping, I don't think they're good together. The amount of
Forced banter for sure.
Forced banter. I saw a comment that was like, this is the banter booth. This isn't UFC commentary. And I thought that was good. But the amount of times, more so than I think I've ever heard in a UFC card was, oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there. Oh, sorry, no, you go. It's like, what are we doing? It's supposed to flow.
You think her and Felder?
Her and Felder are better. I think it should be. I'm done with the 3-person booths. I don't think there should be a 3-person booth. I think it's too. They get way too caught up in talking over each other. One person starts explaining way too long, so the other two are just sitting there. It's not a real back and forth. There's always somebody outside of the back and forth. And if there is back and forth with all three, then it's like everybody's talking over each other. 3-man booth or 3-person booth now. I don't think it's good.
Move on from the 3-person.
I think so. It's too podcasty. It's a banter booth. They're just chit chatting.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Well, speaking of moving on, let's move on. You like that transition?
Is this the fastest we've ever gotten through the main event and a co-main?
I think so, man. And this
we're not even 20 minutes
we're getting through all the fights that we want to cover, honestly.
Yeah.
Because up next we have Michael Morales versus Max Griffin. I was looking forward to this fight. Michael Morales, dude, looks super promising. Very talented. Very talented. Then you have Max Griffin, who's been on a tear recently. Let's see his last couple fights, actually, because I know that he was on he had won 4 of his last 5.
Yeah, and he could have won that Neil Magny fight. That's that one loss in there, right? Neil Magny? Yeah. Yeah.
His last fight, he beat your boy, Tim Means.
I know. The dirty bird. But yeah, I like Max Griffin, dude. He's a solid. He's very good at creating openings in a weird way. Like it's not he's not necessarily forcing opportunities. Because I think normally when you force an opportunity, you get clipped, But he's very good at just finding. Maybe just forcing entries, and he's just actually good at it, because he'll just blitz at you. And that's another thing the commentary was just not seeing in the whole first round. I don't think they mentioned one shot that Max Griffin landed in that first round, and he was he won that first round. He beat him up that first round.
Decisively, easy.
Yeah, and at the end, Fitzgerald in the third round, he's like, interesting. Lots of people on Twitter are saying that it's all tied up going into this third round. But the momentum's on Morales, and it's because he definitely won the first round. It was a clear 1-1 going.
You know who else thought that? All the judges.
All 3 judges.
Yeah. So the thing with this fight, right? Morales has been on a tear, man. He's been finishing his opponents. He's a super exciting fighter. Whenever you're an up-and-comer in the UFC, you're this exciting and everybody's expecting these finishes from you. You kind of see it be forced a little bit, right? And so the first round, I thought Max Griffin did a really good job of circling away from his right over and over and over again. Morales kept on trying to force the right hand, which created some openings, and you saw some counters coming in from Max Griffin. So it was a very nice chess match, that first round. The second round, Morales found his jab. Yeah. He's like, well, if I can't land this right, let me just go and circle, And he did a good job. Instead of chasing after him or circling with him, he just did a sidestep to meet Griffin where he was going to be and just jabbed. And kept on catching Griffin, man. You saw him start wearing it underneath both eyes. Started getting busted up. Just
he found over and over. He found that timing too, because Griffin's not a guy who, while he was circling, he's not that's not his offensive game plan. Where there's some guys who will circle, and as you're trying to follow them or cut them off, that they're gonna clip you and stuff as they're circling you. That's not his style. He's just circling to evade, and then he's gonna blitz. That's how he does force the openings, right? Because he blitzes in and he lands those weird shots at kind of weird angles as you're in that scuffle, kind of. So it's if you're Morales, it's okay, I'm done following him. He's going to eventually plant and try to blitz me, and once he found that read and he starts landing the jab, as soon as Griffin's like about to start that blitz, he just kept stopping him right in his tracks, and Griffin would swing wild kind of, or he just not even enter in the first place. And that jab looked so good. And what impressed me the most though was the takedown defense. His takedown defense looked incredible. And it's not like Max Griffin's someone who's like Grant Dawson, who's gonna find those openings and like if he finds there's some guys, if they get the opening, it's over. You're on your back. It's just inevitable. Max Griffin was finding the openings. Like he was ducking under shots. His timing was great. He'd collect the hands. He's in deep on double legs, but Morales just stopped them in his tracks basically. And then even had a couple like reversals. He hit the switch, I think in the third round, had a little slam there too. Once he kind of found his groove after the first round, looked really, really good. And he's looked good up until this point, but he hasn't really had like any opposition, where he lost the first round, It
was nice to see. Nice to see. Yeah. So at welterweight, man, I mean, this guy should be breaking into the top 15 soon.
Damn, look at that jab.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, welterweight's awful, right?
It's so bad right now. It's rough right now. And when I see him and I take a look at like 10 to 15 right now, you have Michel Pereira, Jack Della Maddalena, Ian Machado Gary.
That'd be a fun fight.
Michael Chiesa. Neil Magny. So, I mean, you got some names where I think you could start putting Morales in there. And he still has a solid shot to continue ascending and have him break into the top 15. Yeah,
it sucks Jack Della just lost his fight. And they're talking about him fighting Buckley, I think, now, potentially.
Oh, really?
I think they've agreed, like, verbally, but it's not actually, like, a scheduled thing. But, yeah, Morales, he might need, like, one more fight outside the rankings. I think they'll probably do one more because it seems like they're building him up kind of the right way without just, like, feeding him to the wolves right away.
Yeah,
but
Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but I really do think you have something in him, though.
Yeah, the problem with welterweight and what has been the problem forever is that top 5 just blocking everything from happening. They got Colby Covington, who hasn't fought in forever, who's like maybe still getting a title shot. They haven't even like that seemed like a sure thing. Dana was like, no, he's next. He earned it. Who else? It's like, what? But now that's like radio silence. They haven't said anything about that. Kamaru might be fighting Hamzat. You got Bilal, who deserves a title shot that they're just like not talking about. Like, who's he going to fight next if it's not for the belt? Gilbert Burns is injured. Like, they got Shavkat Rakhmonov fighting Kelvin Gastelum or something like that. Something weird going on there. It's just a weird. The top 5 of that division is just what's happening. So it's tough when you start to see these guys who are creeping up. You got Ian Machado Gary, who just beat D-Rod, breaking into the top 15. You got Michael Morales now. Like, there's these guys who are like, and Jack Della, who's like knocking out everybody. It's like, are these guys all going to fight each other and burn themselves out like lightweight did with Armin?
By the way, Kelvin Gastelum back down to 170. About time. Let's see if he makes the weight, though.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, the reason he went up to 185 was because he kept on missing weight at 170.
And they forced him to.
So let's see.
Forced him to.
Let's see if he continues making weight. But if he's able to be consistent, disciplined, makes weight on a regular basis like Toasty does, then he can actually make some noise in that division, dude.
Oh yeah, definitely. His skill set
with
is
his power
very good.
and his wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and his Mexican chin, dude.
Yeah, that's true.
He can make some noise for sure. All right. This is where we start skipping some fights here and just keeping it with some of the exciting fights. I am so sorry, Ariane Lipsky, if you see this. I'm sorry.
That's supposed to be your girl, dude.
That is my girl, man. That is my girl. Good fight.
One of those fights where, remember last week I was like, man, no, it wasn't last week. It was Kaikar France versus Amir Albazi, where it showed the live odds and it was like heavily favored Kaikar France because he was winning. But I was like, oh, these are close. That's not a bad bet to put on Amir Albazi. That Lipsky fight was one of those where they showed her as a massive underdog in the third, and I was like, that's not a bad bet. This is a close fight.
Dude, you gotta start betting those.
I didn't do it.
Placing bets, man.
Yeah, well, the amount of times I've thought that, and then it ends up being a terrible bet. happens a lot more often than
It
like two
outweighs the
examples.
good.
Yeah.
Hey, no risk, no reward, my man.
Yeah.
All right. We also had Benoit Saint-Denis versus Ismael Bonfim. Benoit Saint-Denis, dude.
That's my boy, dude. That's my boy. You know how many times, how many people were talking shit to me saying I was saying he was going to win this fight, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about? Bonfim's the next champ. This guy's exciting. All this stuff." It's like, what are you basing that off of? His one performance that we've seen, and then his regional like circuit, like
he is exciting.
He's very exciting, but like everyone's like, he's got no holes, and it's like, what? We haven't even seen enough to say that. Like, you can't say that about someone who's just getting started, you know. And granted, he's got fights, right? Like outside of, he's 19 and he was 19-3 going into this, so like he's got fights. He's on LFA, Contender Series, all this stuff, but like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. And then
this was his
second
fight in the UFC.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about? This is a layup. This is a layup performance or matchup." Benoit Saint-Denis, he's got no head movement. All he's got is a chin. He's got no offense. He stands in front of you and he's tough. That's all he's got. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, people are basing that off of that. What was his debut in the UFC?
Terrence McKinney?
No. Benoit Saint-Denis.
Oh.
His Zaleski dos Santos. That was it. So he loses that fight, and yeah, he was a punching bag in that fight. But he also got cracked super hard early. So it's like, if we're basing a fighter's skills off of when he's already rocked, and like we're just going to write them off as that, then like, what are we doing? Because
by the way, that was his first and only loss.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And like, since then, he's been in dogfights, you know, and all 3 finishes now since that fight. So this guy's way better than I think most people are giving him credit for. Like, how many times you see, what do they say? They say a knockdown takes 2 belts off or something like that on your jiu-jitsu, where it's like you get dropped and all of a sudden you're lost because you have no idea what's happening on the ground. And what are we going to say that guy sucks at jiu-jitsu now because he let someone pass him while he was rocked? No. So when the guy's rocked, we're going to say that's the peak. That's his ceiling of striking, is when he's rocked. It's crazy. So going into this, I was like, dude, Benoit Saint-Denis is way better than people are giving him credit for. Bonfim is obviously talented and very exciting, but it's not like a foregone conclusion, this one. And I think Bonfim kind of was feeling himself a little bit too much also. I think he's letting that hype get to him.
Yeah, I do. By the way, those body kicks.
Oh my God.
And over.
And he's like, do another one. He's like, okay.
Yeah, if it works, I guess. Huh?
I mean, he opened that fight. He throws that body kick super hard. They reset. He throws it again. And Bonfim's like, "Oh, we're kicking bodies now? Give me another one." He's like, "All right, cool." Does it again. He's like, "Give me another one." He's like, "All right, cool." And he's like, "Give me another one again." And he goes up top. And I was like, that's sick. He goes up top instead of to the body. And then Bonfim, I think on the third one, he tried to counter with a big right hand that kind of landed. And he's like, cool, I can counter that body kick. Throw it again, and I'll counter it. And then he kicked him again, and he threw it again, and he missed by like a foot. And I was like, oh, man, don't just stop.
So
I think he was kind of different. I think he was also feeling the hype a little bit too much that people were giving him, you know, because he was acting like he was a Terminator in there, where Benoit Saint-Denis is also a Terminator, you know, so like you have to fight a little bit smarter than that. I think he was feeling the hype a little bit too much, maybe felt invincible, but it was an exciting fight. It was fun while it lasted.
Benoit Saint-Denis was very relentless in this fight, man, and here it is. Here was the finish, taking his back, choking him out.
The back take was really cool too. When he rolled for it, I was kind of worried because I was like, because that's a risky back take. You could end up with the guy on top of you pretty easily if you mess that up. But when he got it, I was like, oh, he's not just a striker. And like, obviously he's got a submission and stuff already in the UFC, but like that was a sneaky back take. And then the way he set up the choke was sick too, where he just kept, because it is the opposite of the Grant Dawson fight, basically. You know, once he took the back, because Bonfim was defending well, but Benoit Saint-Denis, you switch sides like that over and over again with the arms, and you pepper in some shots, and then he'd trap under the arm with the choking hand, and then he's like, so you're not even thinking of that one as the choking hand, and he's trying to force that one in. Then this hand goes over to defend, and all of a sudden this one's open. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if that made any sense. But yeah, he found the opening perfectly. he leans his head back so he can get his hand behind it, puts his head back down to lock it in place. I mean, it was beautiful. It was a great submission. Not even on the neck, you know?
Yeah, no, it was slick. But as soon as you saw him like get that nice grip in and start squeezing a little bit, Bonfim's hand went up like right away, and like as soon as it happens, like dude, just tap, because you're not fighting the hands at all at that point anymore, and you're just when can I not breathe? When am I about to pass out? Okay, let's go.
Last second is he? I mean, the hope might be if I don't tap. Maybe that half a second or that second is when he's like, oh, I don't have this, and he readjusts, you know. But
maybe
I've never seen that happen.
Maybe.
Anytime you see the hand come up like Ricky Bobby, you know it's about to happen.
And even the best thing was like, he's thinking about it, and there it is. You know? All right, man. We can move on to the next one. I believe this was a debut, right, for Ruziboev versus Ferreira.
Yeah, and going into this one, a lot of question marks on Ferreira, right? Because he knocked out RoboCop, and it was like, whoa. But it's like it was a short notice thing. The guy's clearly the worst type of fighter you want to fight on short notice, right? In his UFC debut, he's got nothing to lose, really. They gave you basically a guaranteed 3-fight contract if you're filling in on short notice like that. So it's like this guy's going to be an animal. And his build and his aggressiveness and his kind of weird timing, terrible fight to take on short notice. So he knocks out RoboCop, and it's like, how good is he really? You know? So it was interesting, this matchup. And I thought his game plan was really good, actually, because, I mean, look how much taller he is, right? So if you're fighting someone tall like that, one of the best entries you can do, because the reach is gone, right? Even if you have a longer reach, every inch of height takes off an inch or half inch off your reach, right? Because you punch up, you're losing distance. But what is there are those long legs. So what you can do is if you're heavy on the lead leg early against someone tall like that, that will limit their mobility and allow you to get in close and start landing those big shots that you need to with your hands. Like DC was very good at that. It's attacking that lead leg, getting that mummy guard to get through their punches, and then now he's inside. Their mobility's kind of suspect. And it seemed like Ferreira was going to do that. He started attacking the lead legs, and then that was also his downfall.
Yeah. Well, Ruziboev executed on what Bonfim wanted to do, I think.
Yeah, basically.
You know, where he catches the kick from Ferreira and just lands this straight right bomb. Man. Bomb.
Yeah, it was a big shot, and it was weird because a lot of times in those sequences, because he drops him with that right hand, and you're like, did he drop him or was he off balance because his legs up in the air and they're pulling on it and he's on one foot and now he just took some force up top? Did he fall because he's off balance, or did he fall because he was like actually somewhat unconscious? And as soon as he hits the ground, you're like, oh no, this dude is hurt.
He's out.
And Ruziboev just goes over and just finishes him. I mean, really good performance for a debut.
Yeah,
that's a
very impressive
debut. Yeah,
very impressive.
And he's does he have any losses? Is he undefeated? I think he's undefeated, right?
He is 35-8-2. Holy smokes! Your boy's got some fights under his belt.
Ferreira was undefeated, I think, right? Someone was undefeated in this fight.
Ferreira was undefeated.
Okay, rest in peace.
Ruziboev's been doing 45 fights, making his debut at 45 fights in, dude. That's awesome. Hey, never give up on your dreams, you know?
Yeah, don't let your dreams be dreams.
Made it to the big show.
Yeah.
All right.
That's about
We'll
it.
move on to the next one. Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of finishes. It was a good card. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. A lot of like hype trains got derailed, you know?
Love to see it.
Love to see it. You know, the Damir was a big hyped lightweight. Bonfim got derailed. And there's a couple other ones that we'll talk about later.
All right. Man, coming back to the UFC, we had Kevin Lee versus, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name, Rinat.
Fakhretdinov?
Fakhretdinov. There we go. Fakhretdinov. That's good. That was good.
I don't even know if it's right. You say it confidently enough. And
we'll roll with it, though. Fakhretdinov. All right. But yeah, everybody was hyped for Kevin Lee's return. I know I was hyped for Kevin Lee's return. Look, Kevin Lee, we don't know what Kevin Lee we're gonna get, like ever.
Yeah.
Ever since the
His whole
coach that he
career.
was closest to passed away, he's bounced from gym to gym. I feel like he's never really settled into his own. He's never really found his own groove. He's never even settled into a gym, really. And I feel like he's been trying to just find himself for the past few years.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Kevin Lee, and I know he's got like a ton of haters and stuff, but it's like I think I've always kind of been a fan of the people who I felt were like misunderstood in fighting, and like it sounds crazy to say this now, but like the Diaz brothers were perfect examples of that. For a long time, it was like weird to be fans of them. People were like, "What the fuck? Why would you be a fan of that guy?" Like either of them, really. Now they're not misunderstood. Now people think they're sick, right? But Kevin Lee kind of a similar thing where I think he's misrepresented or misunderstood a lot, and people clown him for saying certain things like "I see holes in Khabib's game." That's like a meme with Kevin Lee, right? But it's like you can't really just take people what they say at surface value. You know what I mean? Like if you're a fighter, you have to almost have this like bravado or like ultra confidence and say these crazy things, because when you do capitalize on them, people are like, "Damn, he called it early. He said he was going to beat so-and-so, and he knew he was great, all this stuff. And it was a big reward. But when there's struggle involved, people kind of clown you for saying those types of things. And I feel like that's I don't like that about the sport or like the fan base.
Yeah. And I don't think it's just that, Will, but like one of the biggest things, right? Like just the mental game that goes into this. And like in baseball, Will, if you're walking up to the play and you're saying, "I'm about to strike out. I'm about to strike out. I'm about to strike out." What happens?
Yeah.
So in fighting, man, if you're thinking to yourself, "Hey, I'm going up against Khabib. I'm going up against one of the GOATs.
Yeah.
He's gonna take me down. He's gonna ground and pound me. I'm gonna lose. I'm out in the first round." What do you think's gonna happen, man? So these guys have to be ultra confident in themselves. They have to say, they do have to say, "Hey, I see holes in the game, and I think I can exploit those."
Yeah.
And there are holes. If you don't, you already lost. You already lost.
And the things that Hughes said, I mean, it was similar to what Magomedov did against Sean Strickland. It's like Khabib's got that ultra heavy presence. He's pressuring you. Front kicks to the body. That's what he was saying. Front kicks to the body are going to zap his gas tank, things like that. There are holes there. That is a hole. That's like an opportunity to land something and have some success against Khabib. Implementing it and actually doing it is another thing, right?
Yep.
Nobody was able to. But that doesn't mean that the hole isn't there, that it's not a valid thing to say. But there's other things that he said, but he's never been like hateful, It's not like he's saying, like, people judge him off his words and stuff. But he's not like, I don't know. He never says anything derogatory. He never crosses the line talking about, except for unless you're Chiesa, right? Maybe he crossed the line with Chiesa saying something about his mom, even though he didn't even like really say anything bad about it. Like,
don't talk about my mom.
Yeah, don't talk about my mom.
Dude, I'll never forget that, man. We're there we were there live for that press conference. That was a
Kevin
blast.
Lee liked my picture on Instagram. Maybe that's why I'm a fan. He liked my picture on Instagram when we were there, and I posted the picture of us there. But so I'm a fan of Kevin Lee. So maybe there is bias involved, but I also wasn't looking forward to this. I wasn't looking forward to this. I don't think he should be at 170. He blew his knees out against Diego Sanchez mid-fight and didn't look great in that in Eagle FC. So it sucks to say, but I think the game is kind of past Kevin Lee, and I kind of thought that already before this fight. And dude, just seeing him move in there, he's got the two sleeves on his knees. He's just not. He wasn't explosive like he used to be. He wasn't. He didn't look light on his feet. He was kind of plodding. He eats that right hand that drops him. He goes in for the takedown. He gets choked out. Fantastic job refereeing by Herb Dean. People don't give refs enough credit when they do a good job. I thought he did fantastic in this fight. Yep. Because Kevin Lee is in on this takedown. His right arm is trapped, and the left hand is trapped on that knee like you see it. So when he goes unconscious from the choke, there's nothing to drop. There's nothing to signify that he's actually out. It looks
like he's trying to think of his next move while he's stuck.
Yeah, what do I do here? What do I do?
Yeah, because
I'm stuck here.
To your point, when Fakhretdinov, whatever his name is,
Rinat.
when he squats down, his right hand right here that you see on the picture. By the way, if you're just listening and not watching on YouTube, highly recommend YouTube because you can actually see the pictures that we're referencing. But that right hand gets stuck between the hip and the thigh, right?
Yeah.
The left hand gets stuck in that right between
the
your
thigh
quad
and
and your calf. Yeah. And so it looks like you're working towards the takedown. And so beautiful job by Herb to go over there, kind of tries to get him moving on one side, looks for a response on the other side, and then waves it off after that.
It was fantastic because the first one he couldn't tell with the right hand because it was so stuck. Some refs probably would have been like, I think he's fine. I think he's in there. Otherwise, I would have been able to pull that hand out and just let it go. But instead, he goes to the other side, like you said, tries to pull that hand out. And that could have went wrong if Kevin Lee was conscious and he pulls his arm out. Now he doesn't have the grip on the left side for the takedown. And it's like, but he was out. And as soon as he let go, he drops, face plants, and he's out for a while. And that's why I wasn't excited for this return, dude. I do really like Kevin Lee. And it sucks because he was very promising at one point, and it's someone who, like I said, I think he's pretty misunderstood. The trajectory in his career was changed by outside forces, and it seemed like he never really was able to right that ship.
Yeah, and we had the last picture of him, kind of face down on the mat, not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but we've seen Kevin Lee at his highest, man. Contending for a title. Oh yeah. And listen to his opponents, man. He's fought Michael Chiesa, Tony Ferguson, Edson Barbosa, Ali Quinta, RDA, Gregor Gillespie, Charles Oliveira, D. Rod. Yeah. He's fought
Diego
elite. I didn't name that one, but you know what I mean. Like, he's gone up against the who's who of the top echelon within that division. Yeah. And so I like you, huge fan.
Yeah.
Huge fan of Kevin Lee. So it sucks seeing him go from all those fighters that we just mentioned, contending for a title, to that last image. Right. And I wish him nothing but the best. I hope that, he bounces back. If he decides to retire sometime soon, hopefully he finds something that he likes to do.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to Luke watching us, huh?
Oh, dang. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's sick.
My daughter watching us. I got to stop cussing now.
It's a family show.
It's a family show, exactly.
But yeah, Fakhretdinov did exactly what he needed to do. Going into this, obviously, when they announced this fight, I was like, this seems like the UFC punishing Kevin Lee for leaving and talking all that shit that he did. And it's a bummer. Yeah, it's a real bummer.
All right, that's probably the fight that we're going to spend the most time on, quite honestly.
Yeah.
We'll move on to Joanderson Brito versus Westin Wilson.
Ooh, with the rolling of the R. Look at that.
Hey, dude. That's how I do.
Another one where the height advantage didn't quite. I should say, one where the height advantage didn't quite work. And I thought the commentary in this fight was actually really good. Laura Senko was talking about how Wilson needs that wide stance to be able to do his darting and his movement, things like that. And Brito just smothered him, so he couldn't have that stance. If you can force your opponent to be to like break their posture, alter their stance, like be out of position and not fight comfortably, that's a massive advantage. And Brito did that perfectly. He just smothered him completely.
Yeah, man, and it was just tough to watch, really, because it just seemed like Wilson. Look, man, he made it to the UFC. Brito's an absolute killer. But, sometimes you just see some matchups where you're like, man, this guy doesn't seem like he has any business being in there right now with Brito. And the thing is, like, he attacked the leg. He was in deep on a knee bar, it seemed like. Then he was going for, like, an ankle lock. But the thing that we have to remember is that when you're in that position.
This isn't jiu-jitsu?
This is not just jiu-jitsu. Yeah. You are leaving some major openings, especially when you have both your arms around the ankle like that and you're just squeezing for dear life.
Yeah,
and you have Brito, who's luta muta bomb, which is fighting style is very good, right? And just notices that opening right away and just drops some bombs straight from Brazil.
But we just saw it last week. You know?
Dude, but it was
Macy
an gnarly
Barber.
finish, man. It was an gnarly finish because he was out when he started landing those bombs, and I felt like the ref could have jumped in just a little sooner, just a little sooner. But I guess just for good measure, making sure he was really out. Brito kept on landing those bombs on Wilson, man. So we'll see what Wilson does next. But man, Joanderson Brito, man.
He's just dangerous.
Scary individual, dude.
He's dangerous. His last loss was to what? Bill Aljo, and that's like, is that his only UFC loss? Was Bill Aljo? Yeah, his only loss since 2015. His only loss since 2015 was Bill Aljo, and it was a decision.
Man,
and it was his UFC debut. Since then, he's had 3 first-round finishes.
On a tear, man. He's on a tear.
Andre Fili is no slouch. He knocked him out in the first round.
And I mean, again, if you're Wilson, sign me up. I'm making it to UFC. Whoever you have to put in front of me. And then we'll see what happens from there.
I've already proved that I'm tough enough. Did he fight for tough enough?
I don't know. Did he?
I think so.
Gee, that was awful.
Yeah, his last fight was for tough enough.
All right, man. All right. And this is going to be the last fight we're going to cover here. And we're going to cover Elves Brener versus Guram Kutateladze.
Save the best for last. Save the best for last. This fight was awesome.
Yeah, I love whenever you have like Brener come in like this with the war hat. Oh my god, it's awesome, man. It's so cool. But dude, Kutateladze coming out like an absolute world beater. Earlier we talked about Dawson taking whatever you give him in grappling and him adjusting off of that. Kutateladze was doing that with the striking. You know, if he was coming in low, he'd throw a quick knee. If he had that high guard, he was coming in with the elbow straight up the middle. Mm-hmm. Like he was finding very creative ways to make sure that he was landing strikes on Brener, man. Cut him up.
Cut him up bad. I mean, they didn't talk about. We've always talked about Kutateladze and how he looks so impressive and they're so promising his future and stuff, but he's just had all these different like weird issues, right? Like I think he even stepped in on this one on short notice. Brener was supposed to fight somebody else. Kutateladze steps in, but if you look at his like tapology, it's like he gets his UFC debut. He beats Mateusz Gamrot in his debut. Promising. He then had 2 canceled fights. He fights Ismagulov. He loses that by a split decision. And then 2 more canceled fights against Moises and Malarkey. And then now he steps in on this one on short notice. He's had to pull out for injuries, visa issues, things like that. I almost think maybe he's overtraining, to be honest, because the dude is, just absolutely shredded. And the gas tank was a little suspect here, and he's had so many injuries that I wonder if he's just pushing himself way too hard before the fight even happens, And I don't want to give him any like excuses or anything like that for why he lost his fight, because Brenner's also just fucking tough as nails and very good in his own right. But this was a great back and forth. I thought Brener was winning that first round, and then Kutateladze just clipped him hard at the end of the round and was like, props to Taioni, because Brener kind of looked out on his feet there. I think if he fell, he probably would have they probably would have called the fight. And then in that second round, when Kutateladze had him was on top of him, and he lands that elbow right on the forehead and just splits him way open.
Split.
Yeah, that was
slow motion.
Nasty, man. Yeah, and then his hair's white, so the whole like left side of his head was just completely red, and the right side is just like silver hair. And these guys just went to war. And I think this is one where Brener was like a plus 600 underdog when he got the finish.
Yeah,
it's nuts, dude.
Yeah, going into the third, I'm pretty sure it was Kutateladze plus 540 or something like that. It was nuts.
Yeah, it was crazy, and the sequence that finished it was awesome because Brener was kind of walking them down, and they're clinching, and Kutateladze's landing that elbow on the break after the clinch, and then like you said, he's just taking these openings, and Kutateladze rips him to the body, big. And then at the same time, Brener throws a hook up top. Kutateladze throws another hook to the body, and they separate. And then Brenner's like, I can throw body shots. And he throws this massive, from behind his back, massive left hook to the body. And Kutateladze, they didn't say anything about it. But Kutateladze took a step back and almost like turned like, ooh, that one got me. Like I'm about to take a knee. And they didn't, but he didn't. He came back into the fire and they started trading again. And that's when Brener clipped him with that left hand right on the neck almost. Like
it was on the neck.
Yeah, and you see his like shoulders dropped. It was weird. Like he was like it like shut him off.
Well, did you see what he was doing after they stopped the fight?
No, I missed that.
No, so he's on his knee, right? To your point, punched on the neck, shoulders drop. He turns towards the fence, and he's like, "Damn, I'm screwed." So as soon as they actually wave it off, you see him hold his fingers up.
Oh, I did see that.
Moving them around, and he starts trying to touch each finger like he's making sure that he has senses on all his fingers again. So, dude, that must have struck some type of nerve or did something with his neck where it just created a tingling sensation all down his arms.
I forgot about that. I saw that, and I was like, oh, man.
Yeah, he was like checking and like looking at his fingers and like trying to move one by one to touch his thumb. And so you know that something happened in his nervous system with that punch right to the neck, man. Right to the neck.
Dog fight.
It was such a fun fight.
Yeah.
Such a fun fight.
Brener's a savage, dude.
All right, and I think that those were all the fights we're going to cover from UFC on ESPN 48, I think it's what it was called. I don't know. It's hard to keep up with it.
They call all these different things. It's UFC Vegas 76, UFC on ESPN 48, like
UFC on ABC.
You know what we need to do? We need to go back to like names, like Pride Shockwave, like we had all these, cool names, UFC something, No Mercy,
Yeah, it's like UFC another main event Strickland or
UFC iCarly.
iCarly stands. Shout out Toasty, man, such a good reference. But I think this is where we go with some of the administrative details, right? The moment of silence for those fights we lost, the payouts.
Yeah, so Brito was supposed to fight Ashkabov. Ashkabov was one of those prospects that people are saying, quote unquote, got fraud checked in his UFC debut. So he pulls out, and Brito fights your boy from Tough Enough. Abdul Razak Al Hassan was originally supposed to fight Bruno Ferreira. That would have been a banger for sure. Jordan Levitt was the guy who pulled out against Elves Brener, so we got Kutateladze in there. That's a fun fight. Obviously, I think that was fight of the night. I can tell that's fight of the night. Llano Santos was originally supposed to fight Macy Chasson. Said she fought Carol Hossa, and that fight was awful. Vince Pichel was originally
again, right?
No, I think she won. No, she lost.
Did she?
Yeah, terrible fight. Okay. Vince Pichel versus Benoit Saint-Denis. I like Vince Pichel, and he had to withdraw.
Vince from Hell Pichel?
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of turned his career around a little bit too. He's had some success recently, so that would have been a fun fight. But at least we got Bonfim versus Benoit Saint-Denis, and that was fun also. And then we got Sean Strickland versus. Wait, is this correct?
I thought it was just Sean Strickland that got it.
Sean Strickland versus Magomedov got fight of the night. Ruziboev got performance of the night.
Might be off because I remember reading that Sean Strickland got a performance of the night for his.
How is Brener versus Kutateladze not fight of the night?
That's what I was going to say. What I read is Brener versus Kutateladze fight of the night. Sean Strickland performance bonus, and
that makes sense.
Ruziboev performance bonus.
Since when is they never get that wrong? Tapology.
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe the other side I read was wrong. Who knows?
So Damon Martin, the reporter, was there. He reported that fight of the night was Brener versus Kutateladze, and then Strickland and Ruziboev. So yes, Tapology is wrong. That's rare.
Boom, boom, boom.
Makes me question everything. We rely blindly on Tapology so much.
We do, man. We do. All right. So next week, what do we have next week? We have
next week is our what's it called?
Fight companion?
Yeah.
Fight companion for UFC 290, Volkanovski versus Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez, that is. And then we also have Brandon Moreno versus Pantoja too. By the way, have you seen the poster?
Yeah.
Tell me Pantoja doesn't look like our boy Dennis Bermudez in this. I saw this, I was like, Dennis Bermudez versus Brandon Moreno?
He totally does. That's funny. Terrible
shout
poster,
out to Dennis Bermudez, by the way. If y'all haven't listened to that interview, go back and listen. It's pretty funny.
We have Yeah, he was wasted by the end of that interview. It's hilarious. Volkanovski versus Yair for the main event. Moreno versus Pantoja. The rematch for the co-main. Bo Nickel versus Trishan Gore somehow is on the pay-per-view. Whitaker versus Duplessis, which is going to be awesome. Dan Hooker versus Jalen Turner is such a good matchup. You got Robbie Lawler's retirement fight headlining the prelims.
Oh my God,
People are complaining about that. They're like, Robbie Lawler's retirement fight, you're not going to put him on the pay-per-view? It's like, hey, man,
let the masses watch.
Let the masses watch a god retire. Against Nico Price, too. That's going to be a banger.
Remember when they were interviewing him, they're like, he was saying he would snatch McGregor's soul?
They're like, yeah, because they were talking about McGregor going up to 170, and they're like, how do you think that would happen? And he's like, I don't think that'd go well for him or something like that. Or something, and he's like, why not? He's like, because I'd take his soul.
Oh, dude,
and they like chuckle a little bit. And
he's dead serious.
And he's just so gnarly, dude.
Loved it though.
Man.
And you know
like,
what?
I'd take more than that from him or something. And they're like, what would you take?
At that time,
his soul.
I believed it. I was like, oh my God.
Robbie Lawler even today takes Connor's soul. Let's be real.
Oh yeah. Facts.
Yeah, Jasmine Huadagay. I don't know why I pronounced that correctly. The Jaguar, right? She's fighting. That's fun. Petrino versus Prachnio is going to be a fun fight. Jimmy Crute versus Menafield is fun. Cameron Simon is on there against Terrence Mitchell. That's fun. And then the boy to open the card.
Yes.
Let's go. I'm hyped for this card, dude. This is a good card.
So I believe Rich the Casual, our producer, is going to be joining us? Maybe.
This boy, the main event.
It's in there. It's a one of many possibilities. We'll see what happens.
One of many. He's such a busy guy. He's got to check his schedule.
Yeah, it's not like we planned it months ago.
Oh man! On his schedule, he wrote down UFC fight night ? And he left the spaces on top of that empty, just in case he needed to fill something out on top of it.
Yeah. You know? Is there anything else potentially going to come up? Any takers?
Oh my God, that's so funny, dude. Think though that this UFC 290 already. We're so close to 300.
So close to 300, dude. I'm so excited. And don't forget, we have 291 the same month. So we're getting two pay-per-views this month, and it's another banger. Poirier versus Gaethje.
Oh man, this is gonna be so good.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all I got. Thank you so much, Regen, for joining us again. Andrew Toasty, shout out Andrew Toasty. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Lucy, for joining us. I mean, it's always fun whenever we have folks that are joining us and chatting in with us when we're talking the fights. And of course, if this is your first time listening, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, goes a long way. And if you're wondering, I wonder if there's somewhere else other than YouTube they could find us, Will.
Yes, everywhere. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. And it's at Story the Fight on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, everywhere. StoryTheFight.com
shows you everywhere.
Yeah.
It just says that. Just says everywhere. It doesn't even have link. Everywhere. All right. Hey, and also, in case you didn't know, this show right here today produced by the Richard Bustos, man. There it is. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another week of Story of the Fight.